The college football playoff rankings will drop for the first time this season on Tuesday night, and when those rankings are released, I would be surprised if we don't see the Ohio State Buckeyes sitting in that number one spot. I'll tell you why here in just a second. First things first, though, Ohio State fans. Had a lot of y'all be a part of this over the last couple of weeks even. We want y'all a part of this if you have not yet already subscribed. So I would encourage you to do that. Subscribe to this channel, talking college football and only college football every single day. When these rankings drop, we'll have a live reaction show from Andy Staples. There'll be a video that goes live right away before that live show on the channel. So make sure you tune into both of those so you get as much content as possible about the crazy thing that is college football playoff rankings. So just make sure you're dialed in. We appreciate y'all in advance for that. Thank you so much. So why do I expect Ohio State to be number one? Pretty cut and dry. The way the committee designs these rankings, it's all about this year. It's all about your resume. And Ohio State has the best resume in the entire country. 2 top 10 wins, one of which being on the road at Notre Dame. Who else could maybe take that top spot? Who else would you look at as even being an option for number one? I think Georgia has been playing phenomenal. There's no way around it. I mean, back-to-back national champs. You know what you're getting in Kirby Smart and company, but they have one ranked win. It was at home against Kentucky. Okay, great. Michigan, they've been dominant. A lot of people saying Michigan's the best team in the country. Now, Ohio State fans, you probably push back on that with pretty good force, but Michigan, at the end of the day, as dominant as they've been, they have no ranked wins. Florida State have a ranked win, a top 5 win rather, at a neutral site against LSU, and then you have the ranked win at home against Duke, but it's not holding a candle to what Ohio State's done. 2 top 10 wins, it's a statement, and to be honest with you, I think the gap is pretty wide when it comes to resume with what Ohio State does and the rest of the field. So again, that's why I think Ohio State is going to be where they're at. And when Ohio State is number one, there's going to be a lot of pushback from other fan bases, as there always is with rankings and lists. That's just kind of comes with the nature of the beast of what college football is with how we rank these teams. But a lot of people are going to say, well, hey, neutral site tomorrow. You telling us you wouldn't take us to win the game? You're telling us we wouldn't be favored? I would encourage us to kind of look past that crowd, not in a disrespectful way, but just that's a pointless argument, because the college football playoff rankings aren't a projection or a prediction. It's a resume ranking, like what Andy Staples does on this very platform, the On3 YouTube channel. It's a resume ranking. It's not about what you did previously. It's not about who you got on your team. It's not about who you have on your team that could win the Heisman Trophy. It's about what have you done for me lately, and lately being the vacuum that is the 2023 college football season. Ohio State has the best resume, like I just said a second ago. So people saying we'd be favored over you guys at a neutral site, or if we played tomorrow, we'd beat y'all, doesn't matter. It's even if there was any merit to that conversation, it doesn't have any merit to what we're talking about with the college football playoff. That's the first thing. Let's brush that off. Keep on moving forward. Second part of this, people are going to say, well, you really think that Kyle McCord can win you a national title? You really think Kyle McCord is the guy to put Ohio State back on top of the college football landscape? That's who you're putting at number one in the country? He's not CJ Stroud. He's not Justin Fields. Okay, yeah, he's not CJ Stroud or Justin Fields, but this Ohio State football team is also very different than those football teams by nature of the way that they play and the way that they're built. Those Ohio State football teams, they were scoring in the 40s. They were throwing the ball all around the yard. That's not this Ohio State football team. This Ohio State team is defensive-led. They're allowing 10 points a game. And you got to give a ton of credit to Kyle McCord first, because he is doing what's asked of him. He's not the guy that's throwing it 40 times a game. He's just kind of field general, get it to Marvin Harrison Jr., let him be special. Let's do our best to not turn the ball over. You try and kind of just dry erase the Wisconsin game if you're Kyle McCord. But a lot of credit also has to be due to Ryan Day, because Ryan Day is an offensive guy. We talk about it a lot on here with head coaches. You can't change where you're from, not from a geographical standpoint, from a football standpoint. Ryan Day played quarterback. Ryan Day, offensive guy. And credit him because he's leaning into what his football team does best, what his football team needs, and not the way that he does things. If Ryan Day had his way, I don't know if he'd ever tell you this, but I think Ryan Day would love to score 40 or 50 a game and run it up, still play great defense, but I think he wants to score. I don't think there's any huge argument to be against Ryan Day wanting to score. He's an offensive guy, but he's leaning into what his team does well with how they're built defensively and saying, okay, we need to control the game. We need to run the football. We need to get Marvin Harrison Jr. the ball as much as possible and create matchups for him in space. But at the end of the day, what leads this thing forward is the defensive side of the ball. So people saying, you're not CJ Stroud, you're not Justin Fields. Yeah, but that's not those teams. And it's going to be funny for a lot of people in their mind because we've expected Ohio State as a brand to be that team that scores 40 a game. And so the minute they don't, we're saying, Ohio State's not that good. No. Ohio State's just not who they used to be. And quite frankly, I think they're content to not be who they used to be because they're going to be a much more tough operation when they line it up against Michigan. And it feels like that's kind of the subplot for this whole thing. It feels like they match up better with Michigan this year, and we'll talk about the game when it gets here. But here's the other thing I want to make sure we address. The thought around Kyle McCord not being a Heisman Trophy finalist caliber kind of quarterback at this point in time. Okay. So if you're telling me that Ohio State, let's be the most extreme in this conversation right now as we can towards the opposing view. You're saying Ohio State is getting subpar quarterback play. That's probably what you're going to hear about Kyle McCord when Ohio State's number one from a lot of people pushing back. Subpar. I don't know if subpar is the word I would use, but the extremists, they'll use subpar quarterback play. So to take that conversation and put it back to you. So you're saying Ohio State is playing with a subpar quarterback and they're currently undefeated with 2 top 10 wins. Your words, not mine. Subpar quarterback play, but the resume they have is the best in the country. What does that tell us about the rest of this Ohio State football team? What does that tell us about the rest of the way this roster is built and the talent they have across the board to be playing the way they're playing right now? I'm just saying. I think that argument kind of collapses on itself if you're trying to make a case against Ohio State to be number one in these rankings. Other thing we got to talk about here with Kyle McCord, where is the rule that states that he has to stay the same the rest of the season? That Ohio State and Kyle McCord can't trend in a positive direction with what they do throwing the football downfield, that they can't improve. Last I checked, I don't think that's a reality. I don't think that's something that you have to abide by. Kyle McCord may very well have his best football in front of him in 2023. Like I mentioned the Spencer Holbrook comparison, who does a great job at Letterman Row. Follow him on the socials, get a membership at Letterman Row. But he compared him to Stetson Bennett in 2021. Well, Stetson Bennett from 2021 to 2022 was a drastically different player. And that's year to year. I'm just saying game to game. Kyle McCord's in his first year as the guy at Ohio State. Who's to say with the best player in college football out wide, with the Emeka Egbuka getting healthy, and Cade Stover doing what he does over the middle, and the run game getting healthy as well with Travion Henderson doing what he did against Wisconsin, who's to say he doesn't elevate his play down the stretch? And if Kyle McCord does that, they have no governor on what they can do. Because then you can throw the football downfield consistently and feel really good about cutting him loose a little bit more in Kyle McCord. You have the run game, like I said, kind of starting to, it feels like when they're healthy and they have all those horses in that backfield playing the way that they can play, like they're going to be in good shape on that side of the ball. Defensively, I just told you, it's a defensive-led Ohio State football team. Like, who's stopping Ohio State? That's the way it feels to me. So, obviously, the whole college football playoff rankings conversation, it's fun to talk about. I think Ohio State's going to be one. If they're not, we'll talk about why they're not. We'll talk about what we think with the committee and where they got it wrong or where they got it right, and we'll give you our thoughts. But this whole thing's going to play itself out. Like, it's kind of funny to argue about the first rankings because there's so much ball left to be played. And we said we want to have these rankings, we said we want to have the teams that play for the national title. We want it settled on the field. Don't give us a committee making the decisions here. Feels like to me, college football is a 12-week playoff. You have your 12 team. I think you have a 12-week playoff in the regular season. If you lose 2 games, you're out. Kind of the way that we've seen this thing go if history is our teacher. So what I want to make sure we say is, regardless of these rankings, let's all kind of keep a steady hand, be even keel, seek to understand, not to be understood, and we'll go from there. So, again, I think Ohio State's going to be number one. If they're not, we'll talk about it. If they are, we'll talk about it right here on the On3 YouTube channel as soon as those rankings drop. Again, Andy Staples will have a live show. We'll have a video for you. Make sure you're dialed in here so you don't miss a minute of it. We also will have a live show for you tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, right here on the Hard Count, hour long. Get in the live chat. We'll talk ball. We'll have a good time. Looking forward to seeing y'all there. We're going to keep this party rolling now. We will see y'all next time. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of the Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.